Okay, I did a quick scene yesterday, and I really liked the look of it, the gold on gold formatting, and I thought we would do it with. I thought I tried out all my foils, but I haven't tried out this a turquoise-looking foil. It's a fairly cheap foil. I don't know if you can see it, but yeah, you see all that texture on there? It's almost like, it's like lizard skin or something like that. It's all kind of crackly looking. So this foil is pretty cheap and cheaply made. Okay, it's on this. I don't know what kind of. It's like almost like a brown bag style of paper, not real heavy cardstock. But that being said, it's super cheap to buy too. So I have no problem with that type of paper like that, as long as the price of the paper follows suit. So it really makes it affordable. I have no problem demonstrating this product, and I don't know, I guess in doing so, kind of promoting it, I think it's a fantastic product out there and readily available for all of us too. You can get it at Michael's under the Recollections brand. And it comes in a pack of 25 8.5 by 11 sheets. I don't know, I thought I saw it as cheap as it will ever be at $3.33 on sale, but then, I don't know, there was a sale after that, and I think it was even cheaper. I don't think it was sub $3, but it was really inexpensive, so it makes it very conducive for kind of experimentation and play and, I don't know, discovery. Okay, so I don't know if you can see that. It is so dark. I'm trying this on a very dark piece, but can you see that print there of the Seaside Cove? There you go. You see my camera kind of in there, but stamping in, on dark surfaces is really it's kind of a little bit of it's kind of a different experience due to the fact that we are starting off with such a dark surface, but it can really yield some pretty dynamic results in terms of the overall look of it, textures, but since it's dark, it can really yield some interesting things in terms of lighting. We're hardly ever doing, starting off with such a dark surface. We're usually stamping on lighter things, for the media that we're using to show up. But there's something to be said about maybe having a stronger influence of light within a scene. Okay, so what I'm getting at is we're usually going darker on top of white, okay? But playing around with white ink, which we'll do on the surface here, is, I don't know, it's almost like using a different hemisphere of the brain, because it's almost like we're removing the way that we've come to use most papers and media of applying things on a white canvas, with gesso or a white piece of paper or whatnot, okay? So utilizing actual light and adding that back into our pieces, it's just, I don't know, it's a different spirit, I would say. So it's almost like we're removing things. We're applying, but, the way that our brains are kind of configured, in terms of our experience, it is almost like removing something, which is an interesting process. Okay, so we have this stamped out here. It is wet on foil, so we're going to have to heat set it. when you're working with this foil, you kind of have to be careful about the amount of heat that you use on something like this, otherwise it will pucker. But being that this is such a texturized surface anyways, I'm not really worried about it. The texture is inherent in the surface itself, the material, so I'm just, it's going to have to be part of the character of the piece. Okay, so that is stamped out like that, and what we're going to do is we're going to stamp out a moon in here. What I'll do is I'll mask off the horizon line. Okay. And I'll do, this seems going to be identical to the one yesterday. I just want to do a kind of a comparison contrast type of thing. The gold was more of a mid-tone rather than a dark tone. Okay, and we'll have this moon rising from the horizon. And I'm just eyeballing it. I'm just going for kind of a roughly middle configuration. If I'm off, a little bit, no big deal. Okay. Let's see. See if I have a clean cotton ball here. All right. Now, if you guys are using white pigment ink for the first time, a lot of your pads, I know, are going to be sopping wet. Okay. So maybe you want to just kind of lightly dab in some ink, maybe blot it off a little bit first, and then take it on here, okay? And one of the things you can do too is you can go for a little bit of an uneven application. Mine's pretty even, but I try to go a little bit heavier in one part, just to add a little bit of variation to the piece. Like I said, it's fairly even, so I mean that's fine. But if you add it a little bit uneven, that's fine too. Could be even better, I don't know. Alright, so, and again, I'm going to have to show you my Seaside Cove in here, okay? You can barely see it, okay? And we'll add this down in terms of what it represents, which is kind of that shimmering, reflected light on the surface right here, okay? You can kind of spread it around a little bit too, like this. Okay. This, it takes a little bit of getting used to, when applying this, so don't go like blah, 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 and say, okay, it's too hard, I forget, you know what I mean? A lot of times what people do is if they do this for the first time, or some new technique for the first time, they kind of panic, and they start, it's like someone driving, and, it's like, oh my gosh, they're, accelerating when they thought they should be braking, so they gas it even more, okay? If you see something kind of not appearing the way you'd want, don't double down and kind of add more and more and more and more. Kind of, delicately apply. And then if you see something that you don't want, this is what I'm doing too. As I do this, what I'm doing is I'm taking this cotton ball and I'm kind of taking a clean part and I'm removing some, okay? Alright. So this process right here, for me, it's not only about an additive process, okay, adding white ink to this, it's about a subtractive process of removing ink where I don't want it, or removing some of it where there's a little bit too much, okay? So see this is right down here in the shadows, and there's my waves up here. I'll refine it a little bit more as I go. Let me close my studio door here. There's someone practicing piano right now. Might be getting picked up on the video. Okay. I like hearing my son practice the piano, but we don't want it too loud on this video if it is coming through. Okay, so there's a horizon line right here, okay, with a seaside cove. Can you see it? It's a little bit visible there. What we'll do is we'll just easiest masking in the world. We'll just go down like this. Just give a straight line mask, like so. Where did my cotton ball go? One of the easiest to find ink applicators in the world. Okay, cheapest too, and one of the more effective ones. Okay, at least for pigment inks, but I don't really use it for dye-based inks because they're kind of thin. But for this thicker style of pigment ink, and again, this is Brilliance ink. Okay, Brilliance inks will dry on this type of surface, so I would just highly recommend people get some Brilliance inks because you can use it like pigment ink. Okay, it's going to dry a little bit faster, so if you want to do some like embossing, you can do it on the foils here, but if it's like on a matte paper, I don't think you could emboss with it. It's just going to dry too fast. But there is something to be said for a fast drying, or an ink that has capabilities. It can dry on both matte paper, but it can dry on glossy, where most pigment inks can only dry on, say, like a matte. Okay, why not have, if you're going to get one, why not get one that's more universal? Okay, I have both, and I love them too, but I am using a lot of this lately. Okay, so see that right there? But let's give a little bit of a stronger kind of a reflective quality right down the middle here, okay? All right, now our second applicator, which is a very inexpensive and easily found one, cotton swab. Okay. Now, even right in front of my face, I'm having a hard time. If I hold this up at an angle, I can see my image a little bit more. Yeah, like that. See that? Isn't that weird how I hold this up at an angle and the white that I've applied there looks dark over light, doesn't it? But this is what it looks like. Look at that. It's because the foil is reflective, so it's like a mirror, so that reflected light is going to be lighter than white. Unbelievable. Okay, so anyways, what I'm doing is, again, dab in, blot off, okay, because you want to do this as a dry touch, okay? This is where 100% of people who have a hard time doing this have just too much ink on their applicators. It happens every time. And I get it, though, because we're not used to using, it's not like when we're doing ink applications with dye inks or alcohol inks or something like that. It's not like, hey, I want my pen to be dry, or I want my Copic marker to be practically dry when applying it, We just don't use dry media most of the time, okay? But that is what we are doing with a lot of the inks that we are applying and a lot of the techniques that I do. You're just kind of using an incarnation of your ink that you have. Okay, so this is being laid down in those waves down there, okay? Can you see it? But it's too much. It stands out a little bit too much. So what we do is we kind of just spread it around, or we blot it off a little bit here and there, okay? Sometimes you're removing all of it, which is too much. But you just kind of move it around like so, and, get it to the consistency that you're kind of going for. And if you never get it to the exact consistency or look, don't worry about it. Just kind of move on and move to the next step, okay? I don't get it exactly the way that I want it to, but it's resolved, though, kind of in the end result, okay? Yeah, maybe not your first time around, but what you do is you just kind of learn from it. The thing that I learned from myself in my attempts is oftentimes quantity. Did I add too much ink on this, over here, or not enough? And so on and so forth. You kind of evaluate your pieces. Okay? So it's like the old saying, I have learned in whatever state I am, therewith to be content. So, I kind of, I mean, I don't try for it, but I don't mind my unsuccessful pieces, okay? Because I tend to learn more from them than anything. So I don't sit there and kind of lament the fact that, oh, that didn't come out the way I wanted to. I make my assessments from it, so I just don't do it the next time. And then you'll always remember that, you know, for all future pieces. And then pretty soon, as opposed to kind of experimentation, it kind of becomes about refinement, okay? Or refinement of the general technique, or process, I should say. You know, it's just about kind of experimentation and refinement, correction. Okay, now here, see, I'm going in. This is kind of removing ink in there. I'm really kind of removing a little bit too much, but that's okay, because I can add it back in there. And actually, that looks pretty good. See this right here? I'm kind of tapering off these edges by removing some of that ink over here. Spreading around, so see what I mean? I don't like my applications just as is. You know, it takes a little bit of a kind of removal like this. And see, this is one of the things that's nice about the Brilliance inks. It will dry on here, but it doesn't dry so fast that you can't come in and manipulate it. You know, you kind of get the best of both worlds. It stays as wet as you want it to be, for as long as you want it to be. But it will dry when you're done and you want it to dry. Okay, so okay. Reasonably interesting. Okay, now one of the things that I'm looking at here, okay, is that it's almost too dark in a lot of areas, okay? So let's take, and let's see if we can't get a little bit of tone laid down. Very, very subtle though, okay? Around here, just on the surface a little bit, okay? So see, imagine it like you're taking a wet ink, but you want kind of a powdery, light application of it, okay? So I'm just lightly dabbing it down. It's getting a little blobby in some areas, so you can just kind of, instead of tapping some of it down, you're kind of, blending it out a little bit. It works semi-good. Okay, now I have some blobs on this right here, so I'm going to switch to a clean part of it, okay? I need to get some better quality cotton balls for sure. These ones are a little bit lumpy, and, they were just extremely cheap. There's probably a kind of more uniform cotton balls at like a, I don't know, whatever, Walmart, Target, that type of place. I got this at like a little kind of independent grocery store, so not the greatest. Kind of interesting because I can kind of see the Seaside Cove a little bit when I tap this down like that, because it's reflecting the white, but then other times I can't see. So it's much more visible now. Okay, trying to decide if I want to heat set this. Once you heat set it, it's kind of set. You can probably remove a little bit off by rubbing some of it off, but when you start to heat set, really, kind of have a pretty good idea if if you're done with that area. Okay, now let's stamp our sailboat out. That's another reason why I laid down some more white here, so that when I stamp out my sailboat, it'll stand out. If it was just black against dark, it wouldn't, we probably wouldn't be able to see it, so let's see how this goes. One of the things I didn't do quite yet either is I didn't apply my black in here. Let's do that first. Alright, well, yeah, let's do that first. I want to lay down the tones first. Now, I don't know if this is going to show up at all. It showed up quite well in my last piece, though. But the last piece was much lighter, so let's see how this goes. Okay, this is, it shows up pretty good. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of smoothing out that real textured surface. I don't know if you can see that. It's really, oh my gosh, it's hard to tell. Even, with this piece of scene right in front of my face, it's almost hard to tell too. We might bring a little bit more of a texture into the sky. Maybe I'll work some clouds up there or something. Okay, so we have a little bit of a vignette in here. Boy, it's really very difficult to tell. Alright, let's heat set that a little bit, because as I wipe into here, I find that I'm wiping off some of it, Shall we do a little bit of a cloud texture up here? Let's go for it. Let's change things up a touch, okay? Alright, so there's your cloud template. Very inexpensive. These are simple techniques, folks. But they might be different kind of techniques or approaches than what you've tried before. And again, it's just about kind of the amount of media that you use when approaching these. Okay, so let's add some clouds in here, okay? Now watch this right here. See this ripped cloud, paper towel? What I'm going to do is I'm going to really add kind of a decent amount of ink right around the edge, and then I'm going to taper it down, okay? So what that looks like is And I can think of not very many things that are softer than a cotton ball, okay? And I want a soft application, so that's why the cotton ball is so perfect for this. Applying it down like that, see that little tiny amount, okay? So you don't have to think about using a lot of media at any given time. Okay, watch this. That's probably 20 taps, maybe. But, I mean, it's not like fast, like instant, right? But it doesn't take long. I mean, this cloud here is going to fill up a large portion of my sky. Okay, now see, I keep kind of tapping on the edge, and then every now and then I go down below, okay? And I'm trying to transition the amount of ink used. So sometimes I'm kind of wiping a little bit. Sometimes tapping to get a little bit more off the cotton ball. I probably could, re-ink it at this point in time, but I still want to use kind of the drier version of it, too. So I can get just a little bit amount down there, okay? And then when you apply it down, what you can do is you can kind of spread it around a little bit. Okay, so there's your cloud. One of them, right? And let's change the, configuration. Let's go up here, okay? Something like that. So isn't that kind of a nice edge? Start on the top there, top portion up there. Let me see if I can work. I'll try to work it where you can see it a little bit more oftentimes. Sorry, this overhead view. Sometimes my hands are in the way, or a lot of times they're in the way. Okay. So kind of tapping and doing a little bit of streaking at the same time, pulling. Okay, re-inking, coming into it. Okay, and as I tap around my moon, I notice I'm kind of removing some ink off the moon, okay? Which happens sometimes. So sometimes you have to, after you lay this ink down on the foils, okay, you have to spray seal it with like a acrylic spray, such as an art spray, like a Krylon, crystal clear, polyurethane, something like that. Fixatives are fine. Okay, there we go. And then what you can do is you can come in and freehand in here a little bit. Sometimes it gives it a little bit too harsh of an edge, even though we're using a paper towel here that has a ripped edge. It does give a soft, kind of a little bit more of an organic feel than a hard plastic style of template. Those look great too, but if you want to go for a little bit more of an organic, softer look, you have to use kind of a softer methodology. I don't know, you can experiment around with different papers, maybe tissues sometimes. Tissues that are real thin, though, just be careful that you're not, the ink isn't soaking through your paper when you're doing this type of thing. So, I don't know, you can play around and try all kinds of different things, okay? All right, I'm building up a little bit too much. There's a little bit too much kind of busyness up here, so you just take a clean part of your cotton ball and just kind of wipe some of it off like that. Maybe I'll wipe into my cloud a little bit just to kind of break it up a little bit. Maybe the edge was a little bit too sharp, okay? So, just kind of move it around and maybe it makes it a little bit more amorphic. If you want to get it, back down in there again, you can do that. There you have it, like so. Okay, so we have our cloud up there, we have the black. Definitely have to re-ink my sailboat again. Alright, and we'll stamp it out, like so. Has to be in that white area a little bit for it to show up, I think, without holding it at an angle, to see what's going on. Yeah, I think that stands out rather nicely. Okay. do what we did yesterday and just put some kind of beach grass around in here. All right. Oh, one of the things I did yesterday too was I stamped a word stamp there, dream. Let me try this one right here. This one says Moonlight. Okay. I'll just try to get it as straight as I can. I hope I didn't smear it. I kind of moved it a little bit as it touched. This foil's kind of curled up a little bit, so not too bad. I thought I felt it move a little bit, but I do kind of hold my breath a little bit, to be completely truthful when I stamp out those word stamps. With any image stamp, if it's a little bit crooked or a lot crooked or whatever, angled, it doesn't really matter. It's just a, kind of an element of nature. But, typography should really be, fairly, straight. Okay, so done more heat setting over the last 6 months than I have in the previous 30 some odd years of stamping. It's because I've been working with a lot of pigment inks and a lot of this Brilliance ink of late. Okay, so we have our white paint pen. I just shook it up some. Okay. Even if you use it the previous day or something, kind of shake it up a little bit. If you used it the previous hour, you probably don't need to shake it up, but what you want is the water in here and the paint to become fairly thick and opaque, okay? Otherwise, it's going to be a very watery touch. But that's kind of what I mention to people that are kind of interested in a white pen. I say, you're going to have to shake it up every time. But I said, but the thing about that is, I believe that that kind of thinner property of this paint, this acrylic paint in these pens, it's probably the thing that keeps them from clogging. And the clogging is the thing that we hate the most, right? We don't want our pens or tools, to be breaking down on us and clogging, never to be used again. And with a lot of the gel pen types of things, I didn't have too many problems in the last several years with gel pens. Okay, that being said, I think some people still have kind of memories of the various pens they've had out there, and probably several different brands where it just clogged up and never kind of worked again. I don't find that the case with these or a lot of the kind of later gel pens. But okay, so that being said, if I was using a gel pen on here, sometimes that roller style of delivery of a gel pen, the roller balls basically, it can kind of roll up some of the pigment ink into that and clog those ones up. You just do a little scribbling, it kind of comes free, but these ones aren't a roller style of kind of applicator, so you don't have to worry about that. Alright, so we have our little shiny little lights here. So interesting. Let's get this formatted. I'll do this off camera, but I'm thinking of a little border around this in white to pick up that shimmery little light on there. Very thin, okay, to make it the same scale as that. And then we'll put another blue around the edge. And being that this is foil, maybe we'll have something a little bit more subtle. Then again, silver might look fairly dynamic as well. I love blue and silver together. But we'll figure it out. Alright, there's my card formatted with a little bit of a Aspire Metallics, which is like a Star Dream White, which is that thin little border like that. And then I have the Star Dream Lapis Lazuli Blue, just on this little perimeter right here. I tried out the, like the holographics or the silver, but it detracted from, the scene. So I thought something, maybe not just so plain, like just plain black or something like that around the edge, but something with a little bit of shimmer and, to it, but not, it just doesn't compete with the foil. The foil is rather dynamic, just kind of on its own like that. So anyways, that little thin little bite of that edge there kind of picks up that little sparkly little light on there, doesn't it? All right, so I forgot to heat set my my Moonlight, so I've smeared it a little bit. I'm thinking about putting a little bit of haze over the front of that and just call this scene the moon and the fog. You know what I mean? That's what you do. If you I don't know, something like that kind of happens. And also, kind of when I heat set this, again, I heat set it with the Aspire, so everything kind of bent up, a little bit. But so be it. These pieces aren't precious, as my beginning painting teacher used to say to all of us when we were stressing about our pieces. She'd say, "It's not precious." So that kind of rings through in my brain today. So thinking about you, Barbara, that's what we called her. This is in college, so a lot of the teachers were, or some of them weren't very much older than the students or whatnot. Okay, so let me add a little bit more in here. Maybe we can make some of these little shimmery little bits kind of glow, but this is a little fun little thing to do. It's like you add in a little bit of tone, then you kind of wipe some of it off, then you add some more things like these sharp little bits of sparkly light, and then you can kind of go and kind of diffuse them a little bit, or, put that soft tone around them like so. It kind of makes them glow. I like doing that for things like fireflies, too, to make them kind of glow. Or stars, are a good thing, too. Alright, so let's really soften this up here. I want to get a nice soft application, and very light one, too, over this moonlight. Okay, so... Well, I'm not putting it over, but I'll put a little bit next to it, just to kind of diffuse that area. So, it'll look smudgy still, but it'll look more like it's kind of just in the moonlight. I'll put a little bit of diffusion around the moon, kind of making the moon glow. It doesn't have to be everywhere, though, but that moon's kind of let's go in and redefine that. I really did smudge, some of that off when I was applying some tone. So you just go back to your mask again like that, and let's just do it with the cotton ball. And hopefully I'll remember not to, put my finger in that again after I do this part. That's not what happened last time. I just kind of, this ink is fairly unstable as is, so what you do is you just spray seal this, like I said, and it'll set it, and you won't have to worry about it again. But spray sealant, I'd really recommend it for everyone, no matter what type of card you do, even if you do matte cardstock and chalks or, dye-based inks or whatever. If you spray seal your pieces, it not only seals them, but it saturates all of your colors, so your colors get kind of bump up in terms of value. They can become a little bit darker, but the biggest thing is the intensity of them. The intensity gets so much more present, okay? It really brings out the full, I don't know, kind of potential of your media. Okay, I'm going to put some of this in front of my sailboat here, so the sailboat's going to be in a little bit of that atmospheric fog. All right, so here we go. Let's take a look at those little sparkly lights. Some of them are now like glowing lights. They look like little stars on the surface. See down here? It's like some of them are kind of glistening, but some of them are kind of glowing. And then I put that kind of white right back in there, so those letter forms are just, I don't know. It looks more purposeful and whatnot, rather than just having a smeared piece. What was happening was I was turning it like this, and I was putting my mounting squares on the back, and it just kind of pressed into some of those not heat set letter forms. Okay, so anyways, here's my latest card, and let's take a look at this reflective aspect of the foil. We have this looking like that, and just look at that different type of look, depending on what angle we have it at. Look at it, it gets darker this way, less reflected light, less of that foil type of aspect of it showing, but then as soon as you get it kind of into the light, like that, you can really see that reflective type of surface on there. And that's why, I don't really mind that kind of cheaper, real pebbled, kind of, I don't know, it's like alligator skin looking, crackle on the surface, because, you know what I mean? When you show it like that on here, that kind of that texturing and whatnot, it's not really apparent anyways. So, I don't know, just very different looks. All right, so anyways, hope you enjoyed the scene. Card, whatnot. It's a fairly quick card. When we're talking about 3 mediums here, we have black and white Brilliance ink, and a white pen, and just all the colors and color variations and whatnot. We just leave that to the paper, and it takes care of it itself. And the variation of it too. Look at that spirit of it. It's just so different. It's just a very malleable lighting statement when it comes to the different types of reflected light that we are shining on it at any given time. Okay, so anyways, thanks again for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. And as always, thanks for tuning into the Stampscapes channel.